For months now, Sunday Morning has been working with our reporting partners at the Marshall Project, investigating how in some states, trace amounts of marijuana found in the system of a newborn can have life-altering legal and economic consequences for the baby's mother. Erin Moriarty has the story.
Giving birth to her fourth child in January of 2021 was life-changing, says Nicole Hammond, but not in the way she ever imagined.
I felt like all of a sudden I was a criminal.
While still at the hospital, Hammond was informed that both she and her newborn tested positive for a trace amount of THC, the psychoactive chemical in marijuana.
Through all of my pregnancies, I took very good care of myself and my body. Now all of a sudden I have these people making me feel guilt and shame and fear.
Hammond lives in Idaho, where marijuana is illegal. But a month before giving birth, Hammond, who has no criminal record, says she accidentally ate a pot-laced brownie at a relative's home in Oregon, where marijuana is legal. Were they interested in hearing the explanation why you might have THC in your system?
Absolutely not.
Idaho's Child and Family Services began an investigation immediately because in Idaho and a number of other states, a single positive test result of THC in a newborn is considered presumptive evidence of child abuse.
They knocked on my door and there was an officer standing with them.
A police officer.
A police officer.
After inspecting her home and speaking with Hammond's other children, state social workers closed her case.
I just thought, okay, just tell me what I have to do so that this can all go away. And little did I know that it wasn't going to just go away. This was going to haunt me for the next 10 years of my life.
Because although social workers found no evidence of drug use, Hammond's name was still placed on the agency's Child Protection Central Registry, a list of child abusers. That means she can't work in hospitals or daycare centers. Even volunteering at her children's school is out, and her name will remain on that list for at least 10 years.
It hurts. It hurts. It's heavy. It feels like somebody placed a big boulder on my shoulder and I have to carry it around for 10 years.
And she is not alone. At least 1,000 new mothers in Idaho have been placed on that same registry, many for using marijuana products to relieve pain and severe nausea.
Because your stomach is so hungry, but you can't keep anything down, and it almost feels like the flu.
3 years ago, when Ashley McGrath was 22 and pregnant with her son, her morning sickness, she says, consumed the entire day.
Every home remedy I can think of, every tea, everything I'm trying is just making me more miserable, and it was getting to the point where my teeth were starting to be affected and my throat.
The enamel? Mm-hmm. Her doctor prescribed the anti-nausea medication Zofran, but when that too failed to offer relief, she turned to marijuana gummies.
The instant relief, I swear, about an hour in, I was like, oh, I want to eat.
McGrath, who was working in healthcare and hoped to become a nurse practitioner, was aware that some studies link marijuana use during pregnancy to lower birth weight and premature births.
My child was perfectly healthy.
Like Nicole Hammond, McGrath and her fiancé were investigated and then cleared by social workers. But McGrath says having her name on the child abuse registry has had devastating consequences.
My career as a healthcare worker is not just at risk, it's completely thrown away.
Instead, she says, she has been sentenced to a decade of scrounging for work that doesn't require a background check. She now ekes out a living delivering food orders.
It makes me feel like I'm very closely associated with what a felon would be going through.
You're not doing anything for them other than stopping their ability to support themselves and their children.
Attorney Rick Hearn, who also has a medical degree, has filed a federal class action suit against the state of Idaho on behalf of these mothers, arguing that they've lost the ability to support their families without due process. Has the agency been able to show that any child has been harmed by any of these women who use marijuana during pregnancy?
They have not yet, but what is most relevant to your question is that's not a requirement to go on the list. There's no requirement that the baby looks sick or had any problems whatsoever.
We reached out to the state's Department of Health and Welfare. The response: we do not comment on pending litigation. But across the country, around 300,000 newborns are exposed prenatally to cannabis every year. The legal risk to their mothers depends on where they live, and it can go beyond a child abuse registry. It can actually lead to criminal charges. Our joint investigation with the Marshall Project found that in a 6-year period in these 21 states, new moms were referred more than 70,000 times to law enforcement for allegations of substance use during pregnancy, many for using THC.
To be depicted as a bad parent and all I want and I've achieved to be is a great mom is horrible. I didn't do anything detrimental or neglectful to my child.
In 2021, when Ayanna Harris Rashid was pregnant with her third child, she moved from California, where marijuana is legal, to South Carolina, where it is not. She says that within her Native American culture, it's very common to use CBD and hemp-based products, which legally can contain tiny levels of THC to relieve cramping and nausea. You had a South Carolina midwife, and she never mentioned that if, in fact, you had any THC in your system,
No.
you could run into a problem.
No,
At
I was
the hospital.
completely blindsided because I didn't even know that they were going to drug test me. And it's supposed to be with reasonable cause for suspicion.
But in South Carolina, any newborn who tests positive for THC, even if the mother used legal CBD products, is supposed to be reported to the state's Department of Social Services and law enforcement. Harris Rashid was home with her 4-week-old baby when she got the call.
We're issuing a warrant for your arrest. You have 3 days to turn yourself in. I just sank and started crying.
Harris Rashid was charged with unlawful conduct towards a child, a felony, and jailed. She had to wait until the following morning to bail out.
I was like, this is not real. You're not taking me from my newborn baby and locking me in a jail cell. It was the most horrific experience of my life.
It is outrageous that these women are being charged with a criminal offense.
Attorney Erin Bailey agreed to defend Harris Rashid, facing 10 years in prison and unable to pay a lawyer.
I was outraged because I know that every pregnant woman is constantly having to weigh risks, educate herself, and make some hard decisions.
You can say that THC is illegal here in South Carolina.
You could, but does it rise to the level of being charged with a 10-year felony for making the wrong risk calculus?
Yeah, I think it's enough for an arrest.
Jimmy Richardson, the Horry County solicitor, runs the office that prosecuted Harris Rashid.
The standard is very low, and that is more probable than not that this child may have been put at an unreasonable risk of harm.
Yet a Marshall Project data analysis of these 8 states found that moms of Black newborns facing allegations of drug use are referred to law enforcement around 2.5 times more often than mothers of white babies. Does the background of the mother or her color of skin play a part in this?
I'm sure it could, yeah. I would suspect that, if it was the doctor's wife, they may not even call.
A year after her arrest, charges against Harris Rashid were dropped. Richardson says that most of these cases involving just THC are either dismissed or end with probation. But Erin Bailey says damage to the women has already been done.
Number one, we're a cash bond state.
And Ayana didn't have that kind of money.
No, which means you use a bondsman. So that's $1,000 down the drain for a brand new mother. Most times, these women have to spend the night in jail. For a brand new breastfeeding mother, that's enough to completely break your breastfeeding bond.
Harris Rashid's record has since been expunged, but for the women on the child abuse registry in Idaho, it's been much harder to move on.
One test. I don't know, I get really frustrated because it took away everything from me.
3 years after Nicole Hammond was placed on the registry, her husband was seriously injured in a motorcycle accident and could no longer work.
When the accident happened and our world got flipped upside down, that's when I realized the weight. I felt like I couldn't provide for our family because any little jobs that I could do wasn't going to be enough to make the kind of money that I needed to keep a roof over our head.
Hammond hesitated to speak out. She lives in a small town and fears she could be judged harshly. And yet, she faces 5 more years on the registry. She can no longer afford, she says, to be silent.
I know this isn't right, and I know that this isn't fair. And if there's anything that I can say or do to help make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else, then that is my obligation and my responsibility.